don't know about you, but I've been blown away by what I've learned this evening. I think we just need to give another round of applause to everyone who has spoken so far. I also wanted to give a special word to the female speakers who will be presenting tonight, whose wealth of insight and research is similarly going to blow you away. Are these speakers representative of the wealth of intellectual energy that women have at Fletcher? No. Despite our efforts to recruit as many people into this wonderful event as possible, we found that the number of women who volunteered was much lower than we imagined. This was a learning experience for me because I know that the amount of women who could have spoken on this topic is immense. And it's important for this school's culture to recognize that and to showcase the immense talent of the female student body at the school. I consider this to be a goal-setting experience and a call to action. We are going to have this event again next year, and it is my intention, as well as the intention of the rest of the board of this event, to have at least half of the speakers be women. And so I speak to everyone in this audience, but specifically the women as well, to consider how you want to contribute and to consider contributing to the Fletcher Ideas Exchange next year as well. Our next speaker is both a student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and the founder and director of the Entrepreneurial Musicianship Department at the New England Conservatory of Music. At Harvard, she has done extensive research on the potential of online learning, which was recently published in Inside Higher Ed. Here to discuss how we can revolutionize education via online platforms, please welcome Rachel Roberts.
I'd like to invite you all to think of your most memorable learning experience. Where were you? Who were you with? And what did you learn? For me, my most memorable learning experience came during my 4th year of undergraduate studies at the Eastman School of Music. I was one of 2 flutists selected nationally to participate in an orchestra festival at Carnegie Hall. The venue was like none other, but the real learning experience came from the experiences I shared with the conductor and the musicians. We rehearsed together, we made mistakes, we communicated, we collaborated, and at the end of our time together, we produced 2 unforgettable and fantastic concerts in this hall. I left a better musician and a changed person due directly to the experiences that I shared with my fellow musicians. So when I asked you just a few minutes ago to think about your most memorable learning experience, by show of hands, how many of you thought of an experience that you shared with others? Sharing a learning experience gets to the heart of how and why education can be so impactful. An instructor sets the course environment, sets the course agenda. He or she creates the course of learning and also is responsible for the community that's built within that class. But having access to peer-to-peer learning provides the opportunity for students to take that learning to a deeper level, learning from one another and understanding the educational concepts in a different way that couldn't be possible with just the one-on-one transaction. MOOCs, or massive online open courses, are a relatively new phenomenon. The first course started in 2008 and had over 2,000 students in attendance. A few years later, in 2012, what soon became remembered as the year of the MOOCs, 2 professors from Stanford put on a course that was the Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Over 160,000 students registered for this course from over 190 countries worldwide. This course was the tipping point for online education. Now, there's only been 3 years of substantial learning and research about MOOCs, and the loudest criticism of this type of learning has been the attrition rate. While thousands and thousands of students sign up every day for courses online, there's only a small percentage of them that actually complete the entire course. But even that small percentage, that student number is in the thousands. MOOCs and free online education is reaching a constituency, and that's important to recognize. Take, for example, Lori Picard. She's an international development specialist who currently lives and works in rural Rwanda. Lori's a graduate of Oberlin College and Temple University, and when she found herself working in Rwanda, she wanted to further her education with an MBA. That wasn't possible, so she looked online. She put together her own MBA for free, and that curriculum rivaled anything that you would find in a traditional brick-and-mortar institution. Her 3-year self-proclaimed no-pay MBA has allowed her to have an experience that not only mitigates the cost of higher education, but that also provided her with the opportunity for experiential learning so she could apply directly what she was learning in those classes to the work that she was doing in rural Rwanda. Now, Lori readily admits that the conversation and the communities within those online MOOC courses varied tremendously, and there's tremendous potential to be able to develop those learning communities further. But it's also important to note that institutions such as MIT are addressing that issue right now. In their 2014 task force report on MIT's future in higher education, there's administrators working on MIT right now trying to figure out a way to put the first-year student experience at home online. This not only helps, again, with the cost of higher education, but this is also a way for administrators, they believe, to be able to help set up students to have a successful on-campus experience. Whether it's in the classroom or online, I believe the potentials of MOOCs are in our future and should be considered seriously. While a student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, I conducted research as to how learning communities were built online. This research was subsequently published in the online journal Inside Higher Ed, and the results that I found were surprising. For this research, I registered for 19 separate MOOC courses on 19 different MOOC platforms. The courses range from introduction to cybersecurity, to everyday economics, to traveling through history with Doctor Who. I took the role of a learner, and I wanted to see how the instructors inducted me into the potential power of the learning community online. Of those 19 courses, 3 of them were successful at doing so. 3 others made modest attempts to build that learning community, and the remaining 13 did not one visible thing to help tap into the power of the learning community. In reflecting on the 3 courses that were successful in building this community, I find it very interesting to note the language that the professors used. For starters, they continually guided me to where the discussions forums were and where I could connect and collaborate with my other students. Not only was it on the MOOC forums where I could experience this, but they were guiding me to places like Twitter chats and Facebook groups. Any way that best suited my learning, the instructors encouraged me to connect. The instructors also expressed the value of why connecting with other learners was important. They shared this early, they shared it often, and they used such language such as, "We invite you to," or "You'll be able to contribute here." This type of deliberate choice in the language helped to underscore the value that they see in building learning communities. The edX MOOC took it one step further. Before I could even address the first course session, they guided me to a forum that detailed out 12 different norms and etiquette for me to consider and use as I was participating in these online forums. So after reflecting on these 19 various experiences of building online communities, I'd like to offer 5 recommendations to be considered when you put educational material together for online distribution. First, set goals for your learners. What do you hope your students achieve not only from your instruction, but from the peer-to-peer interactions? Thinking of both of these components will help underscore and deepen the educational impact of the stated course objectives. 2, what types of course material can you create that fosters this online collaboration? Putting students in dialogue with one another not only builds trust in conversation, but again, it helps to underscore the importance of how you can dig into the educational materials in a way that wouldn't otherwise be possible through that one-on-one computer interaction. 3, how can you create forums, conversation forums, to be user-friendly? As a subset of this research, I also compared 2 iterations of edX MOOC Unlocking the Immunity to Change. Both versions of this course had over 20,000 registrants. The first time they ran it, the conversation forums were overflowing with comments and discussions from the participants. The course staff responded and reacted by pinning or unpinning different conversation threads that were relevant to each week's course discussion. In the second iteration, the course staff were proactive in that they guided the discussion forums and set it up into different categories so that the students were more easily able to contribute to the discussion threads that were going on. 4, will you or a co-collaborator be able to help instigate or moderate discussion on the forums? I understand that there's a wide variety of how the back end of MOOCs are run, anywhere from a full team of staff to one person running the entire event. But regardless of these technological capabilities on the back end, that should not be a prohibiting factor for your ability to build a conversation and community of learners. And 5, what value do you see in building a learning community online? Share this early and share it often with your students. Peer-to-peer learning is critical in any context. The research that I conducted is a beginning attempt to understand how learning communities are being utilized and built today online in MOOCs. I believe that MOOCs have the power to transform our educational world, and the past 3 years have provided tremendous amounts of case study material for us to study, reflect on, and use as we continue to progress education. Whether it's in the classroom, the concert hall, or behind a computer screen, harnessing the capacity of a community of learners is important, especially as our world becomes more web-based, more global, and more impactful. Thank you.